I'm an aspiring artist in some small town in America, and I'm in my room making music by myself.
Yeah.
I feel like my music is just as good as whatever playlist on Spotify or Apple, and I deserve to be out there. And if I'm out there and the right person connects with me, I'm going to make them a billionaire. Yeah. I'm sure you hear that all the time.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, well,
now, how do you determine if I am that kid and I reach out to Vidya, how do you guys decide, or what is the process of, is this kid really as good as he's saying? Do we listen to it? Do we not listen to it? How do I get your attention as a distributor to pay attention to me as an unsigned independent artist?
Yeah, so if you're not coming through like a solicited, path. So like if you're not like
a trusted source.
Trusted. Right. So if you just filled out like the application, we would look at like some of the social stuff, and if like someone really like within the organization I was looking at it, kind of was championing it, and like thought and we do that sometimes.
Well, that's Vidya's process, but generally speaking, how would an independent artist make any distributor pay attention? Well, what do you think about that? I'm going to put this on top of it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would say honestly, I would just do it. What I would do even from my business standpoint is that look up the person that you need to get in touch with. So okay, here's the distributor, here's the gatekeeper. How do I get to this person? So let me let me figure out my network. And say like, how do I get a warm intro?
Right.
I mean, that's how I would do it. Yeah.
Otherwise, what would be the difference from? I'm an independent artist now, so I'm asking you questions. Yeah. From a major label to an independent label versus a distributor. Yeah. What is the difference? So I understand as an artist.
Yeah. I mean, so I mean, a lot of like so a distributor is really just pipes. It's access, right? It's making the content available. It's distributing content and making sure that that the money is being collected and it's made available and streaming on all the digital service providers, right?
Before you go further, I want to touch on that. So does a distributor collect money for independent artists? They do the admin and they distribute the money?
Yeah,
okay,
exactly,
great.
Yeah. So it's a two-way street. So we're sending out the content, making it available, and then we're also collecting the money from the DSP and then paying out the individual and kind of handling the financial aspect of the payments and the royalties associated with the streams. Right. A label is obviously more of it's a full service operation. So it's like they're offering you not only distribution services, but they're also offering you like promotion and marketing. Mm-hmm. And then a major label's doing the same thing. And the difference is really like independent labels tend to be more they're smaller, right? Yep. And they kind of tend to like really kind of focus in on one genre type of music, and so if you're Road Runner Records or something like that, like you're doing metal and hard rock or whatever. If you're doing if you're like QC out of Atlanta, like you're doing like hip hop, and you have a smaller roster of artists, might be backed by a major, but they usually have a little less resources, but they could pay more attention to you and and really kind of help bring you up. And then majors, I mean, the role of majors is kind of changing and evolving over time. Yeah. The way that it used to be is that a lot of times people go to majors because they really were the gatekeepers in terms of physical distribution, which would be getting into Walmarts and the end caps, and you couldn't get on an end cap in Walmart unless you went through a major distributor.
And that's the end of an aisle.
Yeah, the end of an aisle. Yeah. Most of the people aren't going to Walmart to buy CDs anymore. So it's I mean, you've been around long enough that you were aware of the merchandising. Yeah. You want an album at eye level, you went through a major distributor. Right. You want an album over here, you went through an indie. At your ankles, you went through an indie one. And then you also, majors are really good at radio, so terrestrial radio is they're kind of strong suit. And so, you could argue about how important radio is to different genres and different, different types of artists now. Mm-hmm. But that is, something that they specialize in, and they generally also have the deepest pockets. So if you're an artist looking for, $5 million advance, well, you're not getting that from us. Not now anyway. So you got to go to the big three because they're writing those size checks. Yeah.
Now, if I'm an independent artist and I am fortunate enough to get the interest of a distributor that wants to work with me, what is a standard, typical kind of split between me, or how much should I be willing to give up for the distributor to do a deal with me?
Yeah. So there's a couple of things that I think you should take into account, right? So. Most people want to be at 100-0, right? Yeah. And they want and they want fees taken out. So as a founder, that has signed up, 350,000 artists,
Wow.
from around the world, from 150 different countries. I'm going to tell you right now, the reason why companies set up a 0-100 split is because they make more money.
What does that mean, 0-100 split?
So meaning that like if Spotify, and I'm saying Spotify, but this means all 200 DSPs. If Spotify gives me $100, I give you $100. I take nothing.
Okay.
So you get 100%. I as a distributor get nothing.
Right.
So how do I make money? Right. I charge you $20. So
Right.
so if you go and so at that like kind of that level, right, where and that's whatever the tune chord, CD Babies, whatever, like at that. At that level where they generally charge a 0 to 100 split, they make money by charging you and saying, okay, it's $20 a year per album,
right?
And you as the artist, right? And this is what I talk about. So like, why it's important as the artist to kind of have a trusted business source is that like you immediately say, okay, well, I give you two options. I gotta say, okay, well, is it gonna be, I'll give you 100% of your royalties and you pay me $20 a year, or I'll give you 80% of your royalties and I'll take 20%, right? Most artists would take, okay, $20 a year, I'll get 100%. And what you end up realizing when you look at like, the slice of artists, like when we actually had 350,000 artists, we had an open platform, and we looked at how many of them actually made money. 400 of those artists, of the 350,000, made 98% of our revenue. 400
out of 350.
Everyone else made less than $20. So in other words, you actually as a company make more money by offering people 100% of their revenue, and because the person making that decision is more like emotionally connected to the decision that they're making, they immediately kind of say, okay, well, I'm putting it out. It's going to be huge, and I want to, I don't want to give up any royalties. And so they end up, by and large, the majority of independent artists pay more money in fees than actually sharing a percentage.
Right. Because their music didn't make money that surpassed what the fees were.
I mean, the majority, I would say, I don't know, I just know from our data, but like I would say, by and large, across the the spectrum of every single independent artist that owns all their content, if you took like there's always a debate on how many independent artists are out there, but let's just say there's 5 million independent artists out there. I would say 95% of them make less than $20 a year from music,
right?
As a way, and so
is that because of their mismanaging and they're not understanding how to make money with their music?
No, I think it's just. I mean, there's a lot of noise out there. I also think that like what class. I mean, the only thing that qualifies you as an independent artist is that you're just creating music, and so I mean, obviously, music is whether it's good or not is fairly subjective, but by and large, like I mean, if I went to anyone, I said, what artists do you like? They're going to list, 10 artists. They're not going to list 5 million. Right. So if they're listing 10 artists, that leaves 4,990,000 that they don't like. And so like, so there's a lot more stuff that you don't like than you do.
Right.
And so, and that's true with really any sort of art, right? Is that if you're saying someone who paints pictures or is a painter, it's like there's more failing artists than there are successful artists, and so that's just how the numbers work out. And so so when you're talking about an average split, at the thing that is important is that like you're not like you're not like kind of short-term greedy. And what I mean by that is that like you want to like even the biggest company in the world like has like other owners. Like no one really. Like the thing I tell people to think about is like, is bigger pie, not bigger slice, right? Yeah. And so, so if your manager wants like 10% or 15%, or if your distributor wants 10 or 15%, you got to think in terms of value, not in terms of like, I need to own everything. Right. Because what happens is that we see that a lot of artists make the mistake where they say like, I need 100%. I need the lowest split, and they come and they say, and they don't think in terms of value, right? So they go, and it's like saying like a Hyundai is a car and a Ferrari is a car, right? It's like, well, if I sold you a Hyundai for, $80,000 or a Ferrari for $100,000, what would be the better buy? Well, one would be more expensive, but but it would also be the better value. And so like, so when you look at it and say, okay, like, we usually, depending on the size of the artist, will be like, if there's no money involved, so we're not actually giving any sort of advance, we usually try and stay between like 85-15 or 90-10, right? And
so would that be the standard if I'm an independent artist and someone
I would
offers
say
me
like
a deal?
85-15 would be like,
that's the normal.
Yeah,
so if someone says,
really,
hey, we're going to take 60. And you keep 40. Or vice versa. You're like, no, this is a bad deal. Right?
Yeah, I mean, generally, if they're not giving you, so it really depends, right? So if they're saying like, if they're saying, hey, we're going to take 60, and you're going to take 40, usually it needs to come. You need to think in terms of value, right? So if it was going to be that high, I think it would have to come along. A lot more
services provided.
Services or money or something like that. So like we've been involved with projects where we might say, okay, we're going to invest. Like we really believe in this thing, and it's a little early, but we want to be involved with it. And we're going to put in like $50,000 or whatever. And then if that was the case, it wouldn't be uncommon for us to do, okay, we're going to do a 50-50 like kind of rev sharing this thing, because we're taking a significant risk in capital. And the way that would break down is that like if we're taking 50%, we go, okay, well there's 15% for the distribution, the technology, and the infrastructure. Because we got to remember, we spent. It's not like this stuff comes free to us. I mean, we spent $10 million in 5 years building it. So like there is the value to that. So that would be like 15%, and then like and then 35% of that 50% might be like because we're giving we're essentially risking capital that's unsecured, meaning that like we give you 50 grand, you could say, hey, I'm not an artist anymore, and there's nothing, with our
keep
deals.
The money and take off.
We're not, you're not personally liable for it. So like there is a significant, capital risk, and so you get a, you're getting a premium on that money. So I would say like the standard would be like 15%.
So in conclusion, a typical standard distribution deal for an artist that's just getting distribution, not other services, 10 to 15% is what they should be willing to give up. Last question. What, in your time being here in the music business, what would you say is the biggest mistake you see independent artists from excelling and growing in their career?
I mean, honestly, I think it's that they want it too early. The biggest mistake is that like they look at like something that like they were unaware of, and they think that the overnight success happens overnight. It doesn't. So like music, just like any other business, like it takes 5. Like when we we worked with like DaBaby early on, right? So like DaBaby's like the biggest artist in the world, and it's like we were working with him for like 2 or 3 years or whatever. It's like and or at least a couple of years, and
a lot of people don't know that.
And that's what I'm saying. So they look at it and say, oh, this guy came out of nowhere. He's the biggest artist, and blah blah. And it's like, and they don't see, they don't see like what's under the it's like the whole iceberg thing. It's like they don't see what's under the waterline. They don't look at like the 3 or 4 years that like that he put out content and no one cared. They look at the one song as like the hit, and they expect results that quickly. Results they take a while. I mean, it's just like any art. Whether you're like a comedian or whether you're like an actor or whether you're like a musician, it's like it's going to be like 4 or 5 years of failure to get to finally get and hit that tipping point where you're starting to see success.
So you say the biggest mistake that aspiring or independent artists make is lack of patience and not trusting the process.
Trust the process.
Take a hit, get back up, keep going. Stop thinking because something didn't work one time that it's not going to work the 50th time.
Exactly.
Like the person you talked about.
Well,
LaManna,
man.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
I'm sure that people will be excited to hear all this.
Thank you.
Thanks, buddy.